starting right now on ABC's This Week. The mystery of AirAsia Flight 8501. More pieces of the plane uncovered. Are they closing in on the black boxes? What caused the plane to fall from the sky? And how worried should you be the next time you fly in bad weather? Shake up. Republicans ready to take control of Congress. Three of the newest power players are here. Then, was it the first big announcement for 2016? In 2015, what did Mike Huckabee reveal overnight? And the homecoming.
This is mine.
How cities across the country are giving homeless veterans a new beginning. From ABC News, This Week with George Stephanopoulos begins now.
Good morning. I'm Martha Raddatz, and we're tracking developing stories on several fronts, including former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee making a big announcement about 2016 overnight. But we start off with new and encouraging developments in the mystery of AirAsia Flight 8501. Indonesian investigators say they may have found key pieces of the fuselage where the jet's black boxes are located. We'll talk to the U.S. commander taking part in the search shortly. First, the latest from ABC's David Curley.
Bad weather. It's one of the things we know about the crash of AirAsia 8501. The weather was bad when the Airbus went down, and stormy seas have hampered recovery efforts. ABC's Muhammad Lila is in Indonesia.
It's now been a week since the AirAsia flight took off from this airport. Investigators are now honing their search on where they believe the fuselage is, about 100 feet underwater in the Java Sea. Just today, they located what they say is a fifth large piece of debris from the plane. And of course, they've already recovered more than 30 bodies from the water. They're using sonar and underwater drones as part of their search. But the biggest challenge facing them now is how do they get what they found in the water out of the water, because the weather has been so rough.
We know the plane crashed in the Java Sea and most likely broke up on impact. But how does a jetliner just fall out of the sky?
I have to think that, as usually is the case, there are a bunch of links in the causal chain.
Could weather have brought down the jet? These planes are built to survive lightning, thunderstorms, and turbulence. The last time a jetliner went down because of turbulence was back in 1966. What about pilot error? An Air France jet went down in 2009 in similar bad weather, but the crew flew that jet too slowly right into the Atlantic. It could have been a distraction, if nothing else.
The storm could have been a distraction. You could have had something totally unprecedented in the history of Airbus, and that is a sudden catastrophic failure.
Catastrophic failure. That covers a multitude of problems. Engine failure, electrical failure, fuselage breakup, a wing or tail tearing off, a breach of the pressurized cabin.
I think everything's still on the table here, including the possibility of a bomb. I'm not saying it's a high probability, but it's certainly one of the things that could have happened.
All just educated guesses. The real answers are on those recorders, the black boxes, on the bottom of the Java Sea. The Indonesians say sonar has detected 5 large sections of debris. From the description, one seems to be a large section of the fuselage, another a wing, and the tail section where the black boxes would be located. But the Indonesians have provided no images and no indication that the black box pingers have been heard. 2 divers were down on one piece of wreckage and reported poor visibility because of a muddy seafloor. So this morning, Martha, we know where it is, but still few answers about why 8501 went down.
Thanks, David. And as you know, the U.S. military is part of the international team searching for the missing plane. Right now, the destroyer USS Sampson is in the Java Sea near Indonesia, and the ship's captain, Commander Stephen Foley, joins us on the phone. Thanks for your time, Commander Foley.
First of all, I want to thank you, Martha, for having me on your show.
So tell us a little bit about what's going on your ship this morning.
We've been searching using lookouts, using optical search equipment, and scanning the horizon, and using our helicopters in tandem to search a wide area. The weather has been a little rough with scattered thunderstorms. The seas have been about 2 to 4 feet, increasing to about 4 to 6 feet when the rain squalls come in. We've been operating in pre-specified areas that the Indonesian authorities have assigned to us. And you have to remember, this is their search effort, and we're here to assist.
And you have heard nothing from that pinger?
I have heard nothing. Although we searched quite an expansive area, I haven't heard anything yet.
What does it tell you that you haven't heard anything so far? Do you think you're too far away from it? Might it not be operational?
It's the range at which the pinger operates. It's only about a 4,000 to 5,000 yard distance in which we can hear the pinger. So the ship really has to travel right over it or within close proximity for us to hear that pinger.
Thanks, Commander Foley. Let's bring in our aviation expert, Colonel Steve Ganyard, a former Marine Corps fighter pilot and a mishap investigator. And Steve, what do you make of what you just heard from the commander?
Well, they're searching in an area that's where the debris is, but we have to remember that the debris is more than 100 miles away from where the actual aircraft impacted the water. So I'm a bit surprised that they're not using the U.S.'s capabilities to listen for that pinger closer to where the impact point is.
What do you make of this morning's news, which seems like very big news, if, in fact, they have located the tail of the aircraft, where the black box, as David pointed out, is?
What the Indonesians have said they've seen is on this side-looking sonar, which creates sort of a black and white picture of what's on the sea bottom. It's very grainy. You can't tell exactly what something is, but you can actually measure what you see on the bottom. So they've sent divers down, haven't been able to get down into that murky water. So I'm from Missouri on this one. I need to be shown that wreckage before I believe that we've actually found the airplane.
But somewhat encouraging.
Somewhat encouraging. So hopefully we'll hear it. Why aren't we hearing the pingers, though? The pingers should be close to these major sections of the aircraft.
I want to go through a couple of things. David brought up a lot of things in his piece about weather and such. I want to take some questions from viewers off social media. Karen Krauzak, whenever I've flown through turbulence, I've always comforted myself by thinking that turbulence will not bring down a plane. That soothing thought is now gone. And Kathy Delaney says, aware that the weather was so bad, why were flights still allowed to take off? From reports, the storms were at 50,000 feet elevations and very dangerous. Address those two things.
So let's go back to turbulence. It was 50 years ago and 2 generations of aircraft ago that we lost an airplane strictly due to turbulence. So don't be concerned. The only problem with turbulence is you're going to get hurt if you don't have your seatbelt on. As far as the other aircraft in the area, if we look at the radar, there were airplanes all over the sky and over the Java Sea that day. It wasn't like it was so bad that nobody should have been flying. People are latching on to weather because they saw there was some nasty weather out there. Whether it was the factor or it was a causal factor in this mishap, we really don't know.
Well, let's go to one of the other questions that's been out there. The pilot asked to go higher, to ascend to 38,000 feet. That was denied. It wasn't like he was just approaching a cloud or weather, correct? You can see it quite far out?
Correct. The Airbus has a terrific weather radar. So they would be looking, minutes, if not 10, 15 minutes out saying, we need to come left or right, we need to climb. He made the request to climb. If it had been that much of an emergency, he would have just done it on his own.
And one other, a couple more. Reports it managed to land on the water. This came from some Indonesian authority. Managed to land on the water and broke up on top of it?
We have absolutely no idea. The thing that's such an interesting mystery about this is 32,000 feet, straight and level, was the last solid evidence we have of this airplane. If the airplane had stalled and had come down, we would have continued to have radar hits to show that it was in a descent, but it just disappeared. So was it a bomb? Was it a structural failure? For every theory we've heard, there's a good counter theory. And so I don't think there's really any good answer.
Let's go to the icing, the question of icing, which has happened in the past, I believe, icing in the engine.
This is very bizarre. The Indonesian Meteorological Service said, well, we think this is a causal factor. They have no idea. Was icing possible in their area? Sure it was. But these airplanes are designed to fly. They're certified to fly in known icing conditions. So maybe, who knows? We need to get to the black boxes. We need to get to that wreckage.
And just very quickly, Steve, if they find that black box, how long before we can figure it out?
It'll probably be a couple days. When they bring the wreckage itself up, there'll be clues. How did the metal break? What sections are there? The black boxes will have the hard evidence. It'll have the cockpit voice recordings. So a couple days after they pull it up, we should have at least an indication of what went wrong.
Thanks very much, Steve. You cleared up a lot for us.
Thank you.